2 years back, I had named myself as a human connections coach. It feels weird when I think about it, but the reason I got to that point was I realized I'm amazing at talking to people. I'm really comfortable with making new connections, with making deeper connections than most people can, and had no fears or qualms pertaining to it. And that's when I came across a lot of people who struggled to send the first DM, they struggled to create a relationship, or they felt overwhelmed with getting on calls with folks. They had troubles managing their energy, a lot of introverts at that time. And I realized that, hey, if I'm good at this, I can definitely help people do this, right? Because that is my strength. And if I can guide people working through it, it would be really cool, right? And that's when I started to deeply understand how and what it means for a lot of first-timers to get started on DMs, and what are their fears and what are the typical mistakes they make, and how to make it more aligned to their heart and their soul. And that was the phase when I met Ryan, a friend, a beautiful friend actually, who I have known for about 1.5 years now. We have been through each other's ups and downs, and we have seen each other's pivots. And I could not find a better guy to talk about DMs on this episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the next episode of the Soulfully Aligned Business Podcast. I'm Shruti, your host and an intuitive business guide, and I help all coaches and healers like you transform your soul's purpose into an amazing, passionate, soulful business. Today's guest is a dear friend of mine, Ryan Doe, who currently helps creators on Twitter, or now as we call as X, create their brand and transform their ideas into a sustainable business, a sustainable and a thriving business. He is one of the most beautiful souls that I've ever met, and I am so honored bringing him onto this podcast. Genuinely, it was one of the best conversations that we have had. So for all of you who are struggling with DMs, who feel that ickiness and salesiness when you're trying to implement any strategies when sending DMs, I think this is the perfect episode for you. And I know for sure that you're going to take so many insights from it. And I can't wait to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for coming in, Brian, and accepting to be the part of the podcast. Yes, I'm going to tell it. But yes, I know we have been talking about this for quite some time, but yeah, it finally feels good that it's happening. No?
Yes, I think we've been bouncing ideas back and forth. A lot of ideas, actually.
Too many to count. Yeah, it's like everywhere and anywhere right now. Yeah, but
Yeah.
okay. So I have known you for about a year and a half now. And you have, I know, right? I was thinking about it just yesterday, and I'm like, I know this guy from a year and a half, almost 2 years. But anyway, so for those of them, for those of the people who are listening who don't know you and your amazing journey through various forms and fields, um, can you let them know about your journey, and where did you start from, and what led all of that to you being here?
Sure thing. So I was a teacher before I became a writer, and it was in February 2021 when I started writing online. I joined this program called Ship 30, and I started publishing every day. At the
Yeah.
time, I had this dream of becoming a writer, and I just didn't know how to make it happen. I was like, do I just publish on Medium? Do I have to get hired? I had no goal. All I knew was I wanted to be a writer. So I started writing every day. I eventually land my first ghostwriting client. And at the time, I charged like a very low amount for it because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't
Yeah.
even know what freelancing was really. And so I start writing every day. I start getting ghostwriting clients. I'm building up my freelance business. And then I realized, you know what? I want to try out this thing called copywriting. So I start,
Mm.
putting my content out there. I get hired to become a copywriter at an agency. I do copywriting for almost an entire year. And then I decided, I think I want to go back to becoming a creator. So if I had to
Mm.
like summarize all the things that I've done, I'm a writer, I'm a creator, and I'm also a coach. So I'm also coaching people currently to build their business on Twitter, now known as X. So yeah, I've been online for not too long, but just long enough.
But it feels so long, right? It feels like eons and ages for some goddamn reason. But yeah, your journey has, because you've weaved through so many paths and so many directions, and you've pivoted so many times. And because I have done that too, there was a point last year when I was like, wow, okay, I'm not the only person who is weaving and pivoting and listening to our hearts, because people often think that, oh, I've decided a niche, and niche is a word that we both hate. Uh, yeah, I've decided a niche and I'm going to stick with it for my life, and it doesn't work like that. And you keep pivoting and you keep evolving. And yeah, there's no pressure to stick to one thing, and it feels really nice to have someone else who has gone through that.
Yeah, I think it all came down to like the niche is just a tactic, really. It's just like a
Mhm.
tactic. So like if you think about the reason why I started writing online was because I wanted my life to look differently, right? Maybe I didn't want like, at the time I was tired of teaching and I didn't want to tie my time to my income. And I was just like, okay, let me figure out what this online thing is. And much like you, if you guys don't know Shruti's story of how she was, I think you were in tech. I think you were like a coder, a programmer,
Yeah, yeah,
something like that.
I was in software development. Yeah.
Yeah, software development, guys, software development. Like think about that. Think about that. All right. So I remember that you switched over to writing as
Yeah.
well. So you did like content writing and stuff. So at the you know it's a journey. It really is a
Yeah.
journey that you're gonna change so much, and you don't know where the end goal is gonna be. You just know how you want to feel, how you want to feel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 And when you were saying, when you were telling that, I was like, there was a time when I called myself a human corrections coach. Okay. And I
Yeah,
was like, I am great at building relationships with people online, and I have gotten so many opportunities through it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to help other introverts do this. And I actually did it like for a couple of months for free. Didn't earn me a penny, but it was fun. Yeah. And I was like,
dude.
wow, we have already come so
Do
far.
my first title that I chose was I'm gonna be the spark coach because I'm gonna be the spark that inspires people and get them started towards their goal. And I actually coached a couple people, and like the it was my life coaching phase, just trying things out. But yeah, I haven't said that out loud in like years.
But that's so beautiful. And that makes so much sense. Knowing you personally, it just makes so much sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think through our many conversations, and because we were both on Twitter then, now I have shifted to LinkedIn because I can't go through the ups and downs of X. But we have had so many conversations about engagement, DMs, the whole platform as such, right? And I guess the same rules sort of apply to all platforms, like irrespective of any platform. And you also did a workshop, I think, was it a month or two back? Now I don't remember. When was your first workshop?
I think it was a month ago.
Yeah, right. Because that's a place where
Mhm.
people really get stuck in. And knowing you now, I can't imagine you as a lurker, which you were apparently, right?
I'm a
Uh,
huge
and
lurker. I'm still a lurker.
Yeah. And I guess even now you have phases of it, but you have largely come out of it, right? What made you shift from the lurker phase to the actively engaging and DMing phase?
So I have this idea called the attention starved creator. And it comes back to me when I was writing online for the first 3 months. I would write every day. I'd spend hours on like this little short essay that I would publish. And whenever I publish it, no likes, no views, no replies, crickets. And I was just getting so frustrated. I was like, why are other people getting so much engagement, getting so much love, getting so much energy onto their post, and I'm over here posting every day and I'm getting nothing, right? And I was very frustrated. I was a very frustrated writer. Um, and it wasn't until I started talking to other people, like, hey, like what's working for you, or how are you doing this, or just being really curious, right? That I realized like, oh, they're not just writing, they're also going out and talking to other people. They're engaging with them. They're engaging with other people's work, right? And so I had before when I was a lurker, I think I was very in my own mind. I was very egotistical with my writing. I was very self-centered with my writing. On the surface, yes, the writing is meant to help an audience, but if you're not going out and promoting your stuff, going out and meeting other people and trying to generate some sort of energy for your writing, then you're going to struggle a lot, like I did, right? So the transition between lurker and I don't know what the opposite of a lurker, but I would say like a connected creator, right?
Ooh.
Is yeah, I think a connected creator is a very good term to use for it. Is realizing that you cannot create in a vacuum. You have to go talk to other people. You have to join, you need communities, right? You need to go talk because that's the part of social media, right? The social part, not just the media. So yeah, so I started talking to a bunch of people and one thing led to another. I started getting job offers, started getting projects. But I had to talk to people. I had to go talk to people.
And here you mean creation of any form. It's not just content. It's creation of your business. It's creation of products. It's creation of anything that you want to make money off. Let's put it like that, right?
Mm,
Money off or
hmm.
even get opportunities,
Yeah. I
which
mean, if
leads
you
to
want
money.
to
So,
Yeah, if you want to talk about like, I mean, like maybe even the woo woo part of it or something, like if you create something, you put it out into the world, that's like an energy, it gives out like a certain type of energy or something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it by itself is not enough to attract all the opportunities that you want. So I started writing
Mm,
online because I wanted to attract opportunities, right? But you know what really, really attracts opportunities? When you talk to other people and you vibrationally like match, right?
wow.
When your ideas really match up, when your values match up, and that's how you get opportunities like stacking
Yeah,
in your favor.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, right? And it's a different thrill to meet people who you vibe with. Um, and especially for people like me who have never felt like I fit in. I've never felt like I fit in my normal life. Throughout my school, throughout my college, even my work. I don't know. Of course, the Shruti then was very different from the Shruti today, but I never fit in for some goddamn reason. Okay. And the people I met on social media, they made me feel seen. They were thousands of kilometers across me in different countries and continents, even, but they made me feel seen and heard like no other. And that is a different kind of vibe where you meet people. And that's what even you said about matching vibrationally, right? Who are as weird as you. Let me put it that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
The internet is a giant like law of attraction machine.
yeah,
Straight
yeah.
up, straight up. Like like once you have your first taste of you meet a random internet stranger. You guys are following the same people. You guys are talking the same things. You guys have similar goals. You're like, oh wow, I wouldn't have gotten the chance to meet Shruti without the internet or any of my other friends.
Yeah, right. And so, what people don't often realize, and I want to put it out there, that how social media algorithms work, right? So, and I think I recently realized this because I shifted to LinkedIn and I had to learn the game of LinkedIn all over again. So, initially, you will feel friction when you are in a new platform. Like the platform's energy will feel very different. The platform's vibe would feel very different. You would just feel like you're posting in a vacuum and you don't know anyone. You don't know the people that you really synchronize with, right? And then slowly you will start DMing some who you feel match with your vibe, right? And then you'll start DMing them, you'll start having conversations with them, and you'll start engaging with their content. And slowly, within a couple of weeks, without you realizing, you would actually become a part of a network where everyone you know knows every other person in the network because of mutual friends and connections. And that is such a beautiful space to be in because all those people in that particular network are synchronizing in the same energy as you, right? So everyone in the network is like you. And this is why when I was on Twitter, I could never resonate with people saying, oh, Twitter is really toxic. Oh, Twitter is filled with bros. Because in my feed, there were no bros. Because all the people, because I had become a part of a network that was exactly the same as the Shruti then. Of course, now I have evolved. But it was beautiful for me when I was literally thriving with the same community of people around. And that's what I think people mean when they say tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
it sort of also denotes the algorithmic tribe, maybe,
Yeah.
which is amazing and beautiful and scary and weird all at the same time.
Yeah. I think whenever we talk about um networking, so there's like two sides of networking. There's like the oh, I'm networking for opportunities and like to meet new people. But I think the real primary goal of long-term networking is to build your own circle of influence, to build your own community or tribe. You can say tribe of people
Yeah.
that you feel so comfortable in, that you feel so
Mm.
it's so natural for you to just reach out and say hi, hello, how are you doing? Or
Yeah.
oh, I have a client that needs help with this thing. Do you think you can help them? Like that is the real goal, right? In the beginning, you cannot imagine it because all you're doing is just meeting one person, one person, one person, right? But that point, when I talk about building a community, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, okay. So you mentioned, right? We start with meeting one person, one person, one person, one person. And I almost see it as building blocks of who you are and what your business entails. You and I both know that there are a lot of people who don't even send that first DM, who are so scared to send that first DM, right? So, for the people who are listening to the podcast, we are going to cover the whole life cycle of DMs, um, how much ever we can, how much ever the time permits. But so let's start with the beginning of a DM, right? What do you think is the biggest roadblock for anyone who is who wants to DM people? They are inspired by some folks. They want to get connected to those people, but they just don't have the guts to send the first, hey, hello, whatever it is. And they overthink it in their head a lot. So, how do you think that set of people can cross the first barrier of just sending
Oh
the
man.
first?
First word comes to my mind is rejection because that's what I felt. So I used to lurk hardcore. I would never send people DMs. I'd probably like I'd be very jealous of other people who could like DM very easily, noticing other people on social media, connecting with other people very easily. And so I would like think about DMing, I'd write something and then I'd erase it right away because I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of like, what are they gonna think? What if they don't, what if they don't respond to me? Or what if they think I'm weird or something, right? This is the internet, right? So that's a very, very, very big um block that I would notice. Now the thing that got me through it, I'm not gonna be like, oh, just overcome your rejection and doubt and fear and just DM them. I mean, there is the bro attitude of it, but I think really if you find someone's content and it really resonates with you, meaning that you notice it and you're very curious about it and it has this like pull, right? You're like, wow, I really connected with this piece, right? That's almost like your internal sign that you should do something with it. That you should go out and like ask them about it, right? When you tap into your curiosity, I feel personally that there is no room for rejection. When you tap into your curiosity, you're in a space where you're just trying to learn. You're not trying to get anything, you're not trying to sell something, you're not trying to, be best friends with them. You're just asking a simple question. And that's where I like to start off. Like, wow, this is cool. Let me ask them about it. Let me ask them like how did they come with this idea? Where did they get this idea from? Right? So that's how I like to approach things from a curiosity lens.
Wow. Yeah. That's so true, right? Like when I look back, all the best friendships that I've made on social media is because of my curiosity, because they inspired or moved something in me. Like I felt something when I saw their profile and I immediately wanted to get connected to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were saying this, I had another question in mind. Do you think, and I think for us, it's very easy to assume because we are in a social media bubble, but do you think in general, it's hard for people to build trust on social media? Because a lot of folks are apprehensive of who is on the other side. Because, I mean, you haven't seen their face, especially women, I'm guessing, because you haven't seen who's on the other side, you haven't seen their face, you don't know how they'll be. So, do you think there is a lack of trust factor also involved?
I would probably say building trust on social media is a little bit easier than building trust in real life. Purely because um the DM process goes whenever you send someone a DM, the first thing that they're gonna do is they're gonna see your DM and they probably won't respond right away. They're gonna click on your profile and then they're gonna look at all these little markers of trust, right? And in real life, the way that someone would gauge like, oh, is this person trustworthy or not, would be they look at the way that you dress, the way that you speak, the way that you walk, right? More subtle cues. But online, everything's very direct. How many followers do they have? Social proof. Like, what's their content about? Have they been on the platform for a long time? Right. So building trust is a little bit different, but I would actually say it's more leveraged. It's actually easier. Does that answer the
Yeah.
question?
Yes, yes. So, as a side note to people who also want to connect with others on social media, make sure that your profile is also trustworthy because to increase the chances of others responding to you, right? Okay.
You don't want to be like the random person with like an AI avatar and you
Yeah.
have
Oh my.
no banner, right? And you've only posted like one thing. And it because people are always looking for context because they're
Yeah.
gonna put you in a box. It's just how the human
Yeah.
brain works. They're gonna put you in a box. Can I talk to this person? Is this person trustworthy? Or is this a person just some rando cold DMing me?
I know, right? Or worse, accounts who have just retweeted other accounts' content. Like that's a huge red flag for me. Okay. So the first message that anyone sends, it's just amazing and it's better to base it off of curiosity instead of any outcomes, right? Okay. Then the
hmm
second
hmm
is, and I have been asked this question a lot of times, even by my clients and by my friends. Okay, I have I have DM'd them and then they have responded back to me either in a line or two. How do I continue the conversation? Because I want to talk to them, I want to get to know them more. But there are so many conversations that just fizzle out, and it feels like I'm pushing too hard to continue the conversation. So, one, the first part A of the question is, how do I continue the conversation? Part B of the question is, how do I know whether to continue the conversation or not? At what point do I stop the conversation if it fizzles out? Right.
Mm,
So,
okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good question. So I think it depends on if you are trying to network with someone or if you're trying to um, find prospective clients that you can then close. Right. So there's two separate processes for both. Um, Now everything that you DM follows a chart. There's like a quadrant, right? And the quadrant basically goes either you have a easy to respond to DM or a hard to respond to DM. So something easy would be like, oh, how's the weather or something, right? Very
mm,
easy, right? Or oh, this piece is really, how long did it take you to write? Very easy.
mm,
They could just write like a really quick reply. Something hard to respond to would be something like, oh, what's the main obstacle for you right now?
yeah.
Sometimes people open up conversations like that, and it's like, oh man, I don't know, right? And then there's low intent and high intent. So the intent is your intention. You're like, how clear is your intention of like closing the prospect, right? Are you trying to qualify them? So something like low intent would be just being like, oh, like how's X?
Mm,
How's your journey or something. Something of high intent would be, um, are you a coach? Right?
mm,
Are you working on your coaching business? Right? So you're going straight for it. You're very direct with it, right? And I think it also kind of helps to think about like if you are like either going out and you're flirting with people or you're trying to connect with people, like it's kind of like meeting a girl for the first time, be like, "Hey, what's your number?" The girl is not going to give you the number right away, right? You might say something like, "Oh, I really like your dress." Do you come here often? Something, very, very easy for them to respond to. Okay, so now that they've responded to your first DM and they said something back, I think the next thing to do is either continue the flow. So if they answered your question, for example, you asked them, "Oh, where'd you get this idea from?" And they said, "Oh, I got it from Dale Carnegie's book." And then you said, "Oh, I read Dale Carnegie's book too." And then you give them some context about you, right? If they respond with a one-liner, meaning like, they just kind of like almost like brush you off, you can follow up with another question. After about maybe 8 back and forths, right? And you're feeling like, oh, this isn't really going anywhere, you can pause. You don't have to push it any further. And the thing that I encourage people to do, and the thing I've noticed after I've DM'd so many people, is that sometimes people are just busy. That's it. Sometimes people are like they're in traffic or they're working or they have some kind of thing going on. The internet is asynchronous. All right. So don't take it personal. And just leave it there. Right. And then you could always follow back up on it later. Now, if you notice that you're having a conversation with someone and it's just not vibing, like let's say like you're at a party and you're like, oh, this is getting kind of boring. I want to leave, right? Usually at a party, you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go refill my drink, and then you just never see them again, or you go to the bathroom or something, all right? So the way that you do this is you say something like, oh, um, if you ever have any questions about, and then you put your niche here. So for me, it's like, if you ever any questions about X or building your business, I'm always here for you. And then I have like the emoji sign, like hands up, and then that's it. Because I want to end the conversation on a high note, and I want to let them know that hey, like this conversation is like done, like whatever train of thought it is, and if you have anything specific that you want to ask me, I'm here for them.
mm.
Okay, I know it's a lot to take in with all the little tactics that I give, but yeah.
I was like, the first thought that came to me is, I don't know who would judge me for this, but if a person doesn't vibe, I just don't respond. Like I just like end the conversation right there. And I'm like, I am, and probably that's too rude of me. I don't know, but I think I've come much farther than judging myself. But like I'm just like, I don't I don't need to put that extra effort to be nice to you when we're not vibing together.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a thought that goes on in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't feel like you have to end every conversation either. You could definitely just kind of leave it there because sometimes people
Yeah.
just totally forget. Uh,
Yeah.
I just been trying to do the closing the loop because then in my brain
Mm.
it helps me not think about it later on.
Ah, nice. Okay. Okay. So we should have actually used the whiteboard and made it a masterclass or something. I don't know. But so okay. So you have the first message. You have the first message based on building. You are seeing the person you're DMing as a potential prospect, or you're seeing them as just simply a relationship building thing, right?
Hmm.
Um, we are not going to get into invisible and visible niches here, okay? Because that would go take us into a whole another rabbit hole. But for people who are listening, the context is there are some people that if you look into their profile, you know that they are the potential prospect for you and based on your niche. Like for example, I'm a business coach for new coaches. So if someone's a new coach, based on how many followers they have, or on LinkedIn they would have updated for how many months they have been, working as a coach, I can see whether they are new or not, right? um but for example, if you're a relationship coach, right, you don't know if the person has relationship issues, right? So that's when you really build a relationship with them, and you get to know whether through just through talking about it, because I mean somehow even if you don't try to, the conversations end up revolving around the work that you're doing, right? So that was a small sneak peek, but oh, there are so many questions here, right?
Okay, wait.
um
Let me add on to something with that. Before
yes.
you try to sell anyone, remember that they don't know who you are. And
Mhm.
unless you have a huge, humongous account with a lot of followers and you have a beautifully branded profile and everything, they probably don't know what you offer either. So always focused on building rapport in the very beginning, right? Don't ever try to pitch in the very
Yeah.
beginning. It's like meeting someone and then just be like, hey, what's your number?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Try to
Yeah.
get to know them first.
Yeah. And it's actually worse when you're like, hey, how are you? When it starts as a genuine conversation and within two or three messages, you get the pitch. And I'm like, you needn't have sent me those first three DMs acting as though you were trying to know me either. That's even
Hmm.
worse in some way. Okay. So you have started the conversation. Um, you are, in some cases, you're vibing with them. In some cases, you're not vibing with them. So for the cases, let it let it be a flow chart, right? So for the cases that you're not vibing with them, they are sort of going out of the flow chart and ending. The conversation is ended, right? So now we are vibing with them. Okay. There is a back and forth going on. And for this, what sort of Okay, so what sort of conversations would you suggest? And I know I'm making it too technical when it's supposed to be flowy, but as an extrovert talking to a lot of introverts, I've realized that they do think a lot on what to type next. Okay, so what sort of um, conversations should people continue? Like, how do you continue the conversations, is what I mean.
Okay, so I think all conversations should on the DMs, all DMs in the very beginning should try to lead you closer to setting up a call. That is my belief.
Yeah,
And the reason I say this is because DMs are like it's like painting with black and white, right?
yeah,
But when you get on a call, the full spectrum. It is like the highest level of like engagement that you can get with another person via the internet. You have video, you have voice, you have intonation, you have inflection, you have all that stuff. And you can know a lot more about a person through a 30-minute, 15-minute call than you can DMing them for like a month.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Yeah. It's like the difference between like mailing someone a letter and then waiting for them to reply versus just having picking up the phone and calling them. Right. So whether you're networking or whether you're trying to close a prospect, right? Always, always try to aim to set up a call. Right. And this is the part where many lurkers and me included, I
Yeah.
would like falter at. I get good at DMs, but then I would be afraid to like ask for the call.
Hmm.
Right. So now now that we have established the goal of having a video call, how do we get there? So you're talking to them, you're having a conversation, and then you have two choices. Either you can put a pin in it, and then, you know, if it's too early to suggest a call right now, don't worry about it. You're not forced to. Um, and then you could follow up with them a week later. So let's say you found them, you found that they created some new content. You engage with their content. You say, "Oh, this is really cool. I enjoyed it." Start another conversation or something. And really, you can you can ask if you want to hop on a call anytime. But I anytime, because most don't mind. They'll either tell you like I'm too busy, or they don't. But when you're a lurker, you overthink it, right? So this is some techniques that you can use. Um, so let's say, for example, you talk to them and you found out like, oh, they're struggling with a specific problem. So in Shruti's case, it would be she's talking to someone and they're like, oh, you know what? I've been wanting to start a coaching business, but I just don't know where to start. Right. So maybe she digs a little bit deeper into the DMs, and then it gets to the point where, oh man, I just cannot give them the answer through a text message. This needs a call. So what she would say is, oh, I have some ideas for you. Uh, would you mind hopping on a call? Right. Or I have some ideas for you and it might be too long to type out. Would you like want to call together? And that way, not only are you asking them for a call, but you're also, tying in that value. You're tying in the value of like, oh, I'm gonna help you with something. I have some ideas for you, or let's just jam, right? So even when you ask for a call, you should always have some sort of like reasoning behind it, so that it helps you. Um, I don't want to say persuade, but it makes it easier to ask. It makes it easier to ask.
Okay, so a big question here, right? Because I used to do this. Okay. I used to be like, and I used to have conversations going on. I knew that they might be my potential client. And this is only in case of potential clients and not friends. Okay. Very soon into the call, you will understand whether they are collaborators, whether they are friends, whether they are potential clients, or what. You will get it, right? You can feel it somehow in your body. If they are potential clients, and I'm like, oh, this is too much to type. Do you just want to jump on a call and I can help you with it? Okay. So they get into the call thinking you are just helping them and it's just a friendly vibing call. But you are getting into the call thinking, oh, this might be a potential discovery call, right? So there comes like a friction of sorts because you are not keeping the expectations clear with them, right? So I think when I used to do that and it kept happening to me because they are not prepared for me pitching them at all, right? Because the mindset with which they came into the call was different. So I used to do that. And then it switched to, I used to tell them in the beginning of the call that, hey, I'll help you through this. And at the end, I will pitch my services. And only if it is okay with you, only if it feels right to your heart, you can say yes. Otherwise, no, no pressure. Irrespective of that, the call will not change, right? Because I genuinely wanted to help them. And then at this point, so I am trying out different sorts of experiments. Okay. For some, I'm saying, hey, this is my niche. This is what I help people in. Um, do you, I can help you with whatever you're struggling. And I will, if it feels right to you, we can continue working together. Like, I'll suggest you how we can work together. If not, let's just leave it at that. So nowadays I'm sort of experiment to tell it to people in the DMs itself, which I do face a little bit of friction. I cannot deny, right? Because they are okay. So this is where I face friction typically in DMs. And because I've started using all my podcast episodes as coaching sessions for me, I'm going to use this one too. Okay. Um, so when you DM someone, they assume that you're a friend. Okay. For you also, they are a friend, but they are sort of a potential friend plus a potential client in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So then you are messaging them, you're building the vibe, you're continuing the conversation, da 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 da. And you're still friend to them. Okay. This is especially difficult for invisible niches, right? You're a friend to them. And then at some point you start getting to know that, hey, this person might be my potential client. And then you try to, especially for people who feel sales as icky and sleazy, you try to, meander through the conversation into a sales conversation. And there people get really stuck. How
Hmm.
do you meander it?
Okay, so I think it's really important here that you, for anyone else out there, that you either decide in the very beginning, either this is a networking call or this is a sales call. And
Yeah,
each call will go very, very differently. When you
yeah,
do a sales call, there's a process that you follow
yeah.
because every salesperson has a process, right? You find out about their problem, you find out about their obstacle, you know, you have objection handling, you have like agreements, you have everything. There's a whole process to it, right? And that is a sales call. And in the sales call, whenever you do a sales call, you're gonna tell them like, hey, I'm gonna pitch you at the end, right? Or I'm doing this because I have an offer that may interest you, and we're gonna and so you set the expectations very, very clear. Nobody wants to, be walking in the supermarket and then somebody's like, hey, what's your biggest obstacle right now? Do you need to buy this thing? Like, no, right? So you set up the expectations beforehand. That's a sales call. The problem arises whenever you're doing a networking call, you're connecting with them, and then you're like, oh, you know what? Like, I have this thing. Would you buy it? Right? And it feels awkward. It feels a little bit icky, maybe. And the only time I think that it's okay to pitch someone in a networking call is if they ask about your offer. If they ask about your offer and they're really curious about it, and they're like, "Hey, what is it about? Can you tell me more?" You can either tell them right away, send them the document, or you can say like, "Hey, you know what? That deserves like a totally different call." And if you're really interested in it, we can schedule that later on. But for now, I just want to know about you. I just want to connect, right? Okay. So two types of calls: networking calls and sales calls. At least that's how I separate it in my mind. And I think the other thing that you said was that you have this thought in the back of your mind, like this is a potential friend and also a potential prospect, potential client as well, right? I think that when it comes to selling something, and if you believe in the product that you sell or the service that you provide, you are obligated to pitch it. Maybe pitch is not the word, but you are obligated to offer it. If you find someone and they have a problem and you're like, oh, I could fix that problem, you are obligated to tell them, hey, I think I have something that may help you. Are you interested? Take those exact words. Are you interested? I think I may have something that may help you. Are you interested? And if they're not interested, they'll tell you no. If they are interested, you tell them, then you hop onto the call. But you have to get permission from them. That's the thing. Permission is everything. Permission is everything.
Permission is
You have to get
everything.
permission from them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that can help clear up some uh what do you call it, any sort of like conflict that you have within you. I don't know. I don't know. So what was the other question, if there was one?
Okay, now I forgot it because we went so deep into our conversations.
Oh, so you're talking to someone, you're vibing with them, and then you're like, oh, like this can be a potential client, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then yeah, so you're obligated to basically tell them about what you're offering, right? Um, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you just seek for permission first. Just be like, hey, I have something that may interest you. Are you interested in hearing about it? And you could also say, by the way, it's about my offer or whatever the heck. And a lot of people are generally receptive. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that most people don't realize that whenever people DM you, if you're an authority figure in your niche and you posted some content or you're like posting content about whatever it is that you're helping people with, if they DM, it usually means that they need help with something.
Mm.
It usually means that they need help with something. It's just like going into a store, right? And you're looking for something in the store, and instead of looking for it for yourself, you ask one of the helpers, right? You ask one of the helpers. It's exactly the same thing, right? But you have to find out. You have to get permission from them. You have to be like, hey, do you need help? If you don't need help, it's okay. But if you need help, I'm here for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, when you said that, I was sort of disagreeing with it a bit in my head because I was like, when I am DMing others to genuinely build connections and friends and potential clients, or potential mentors, even, right? Why would the person who's DMing me just have one direction or one intent? They might come with different intents, right? And that's where permission helps so much because permission also makes you feel respected.
Hmm.
Like you're not just blasting your offers in my face and you're actually respecting me and you're asking me whether I even need it, right?
Yeah, I fall back on the analogy of like you're in the store and you're looking around. Like let's say you're trying to find some milk and you just can't find it. Well, the person who works at the store is not going to be like, oh, like go to aisle 10. First, they're going to ask you like, what are you looking for? Do you need help? Right? So get into the mindset of being curious, and then also get into the mindset of helping people. So if you're curious, you can find out if they have a problem that you can help them with, and then you ask them, "Would you like the problem?" And then you help them. All right. Don't assume automatically like, oh, they're gonna need your offer or your help or something, because then that ruins the whole flow.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So we spoke a lot. Okay, just to summarize, right? We spoke about how to start a DM and what stops people from starting a DM and how to do it. And we touched a little bit on how to continue the conversation, how to check the vibe, and what to do if we feel a vibe with the other person and if we don't feel the vibe with the other person. We spoke about how every conversation in the DM actually leads to a call, right? That's whatever the intent of the call is. It can be a friendly call, it can be a sales call, it can be, a collaboration call, whatever the call is, it eventually leads to a call, right? And we spoke about what not to do, like always keep a discovery call, a sales slash discovery call separate from a networking call. Don't mix them, right?
Hmm.
Now, and we also spoke about why it is unfair for us to not pitch our offer when we can clearly see that it can help the other person because it's a disservice, right?
Yep, yep.
So the midpoint here is, I think, where a lot of people get stuck. And I know I don't want us to dive too deep into it, but at least basics. There is so much about how to qualify people. There's so much content about it. But I think a lot of people also find it, there was a time when even I found it hard to actually do that in practice because of a lot of icky factors, right? And probably my confidence was also not as much as it's today. What would you tell people who want to qualify people in the DMs in an empathetic, intuitive, non-salesy, and non-icky way, what would you tell them?
So you want to qualify people in the DMs, but you don't want to do it in a too salesy kind of way.
Yes.
I think there is the mindset of it. So some people are very broy, they're very pushy, they're very like, hey, what's the main obstacle here? They go straight for the questions. They have no time to waste. They want to know the information right away. They want to qualify you and they don't or disqualify you, right? And then there is my way, which I prefer, which is you connect with them first, and then you're giving a little bit of back and forth. They know a little bit about you, you know a little bit about them, and then that's when you ask them, like, hey, what are you focusing on? And then at that point, you can gauge, okay, are they sending me one line messages or are they sending me like
Yeah.
paragraphs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You don't want to coach. You don't want to coach in the DMs. Trust me with this. You don't want to coach in the DMs because it's going to take up a lot of your time. And whenever you're trying to coach in the DMs, it usually means that they want to hop on a call with you, but they're keeping it in the DMs. If they don't want to hop on a call with you, just say, "Oh, that's cool. We can try again next week or something like that." Right? But don't try to like coach people in the DMs. There's a lot of freebie people and all this like that. Okay. So get to know who they are. If you'll vibe based on like how much they send you, and then you can ask them, oh, what's your obstacle? What's your struggle? What are you struggling with? What's your focus on? Where do you want to be? Right? And these questions aren't invasive in any way, right? If you built up the rapport with them and they feel open to sharing with you, and you are in a position of expertise or authority, then you are very well qualified to like ask these questions, right? Now, this is one thing that I've learned is that when you're qualifying a prospect, prospects won't lie to you, but they may not be entirely truthful to you. So, for example, if Shruti hops on a conversation and someone's like, "Oh, I just don't really know where to go with my coaching business," right? And so it's up to Shruti to be the doctor here and be like, "Oh, what do you mean? What have you tried?" Right? And they'll just be like, "Oh, I just don't have time." Very vague. We
Yeah.
don't really know what the problem is, right? So you have to kind of develop that sense. It only comes through practice. It
Yes.
comes through practice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so much intuition work. No, it's so much intuition work. And adding to the point that you mentioned, if people do start asking questions from you and advice from you in the DMs, you can probably answer one or two questions and then build that boundary saying, hey, all this I do in my one-to-one private sessions. Do you want to hop on a one-off call with me? I could probably answer all your questions and you could come with a specific roadblock that we have already discussed upon. And, you could just go back with a really clear clarity. But this is something that I do in my paid sessions. That really, it also increases the respect that people have for you, and they know that you have that boundary and you cannot be taken for granted you know
Yeah. One thing I would also add to that is notice how Shruti provides a reason there to go to book a call. Oh, by the way, I talk about all of this. I cover this usually in my one-on-one sessions. So if you're interested in it, we can set up a call or something, right? Always give the prospects a reason to book. And although the reasoning of like, hey, let's just connect is okay as well, you
yeah
you you want to be like, hey, you got time next week or whatever? Like, I want to set up some things first, or can you use the booking link now because I want to get some notes ready or whatever it is. Give any sort of reason to give people to book.
yeah yeah and adding on to what you said, always um, give them a timeline, right? Hey, can we meet next week? It's not just,
Mm-hmm.
hey, can we meet, and let it dangle
Mm-hmm.
in the clouds
Mm-hmm.
or something. Hey, can we meet next week? And then they can say
Yeah.
yes or no depending on the situation, right? So you,
Yeah.
at every point of your conversation, you are specific. You're specific as fuck. So because of that, you set expectations with the other person. They know what to expect of you. And because you are truly being who you are without lacking your boundaries and stuff like that, you subconsciously, you are also giving them a space to be themselves and
Yeah.
set their own
People
boundaries.
Yeah, people love it whenever you are transparent. Be very transparent. Be very, very transparent. So
Yeah.
just like if you're gonna pitch them, like just be transparent about it. You don't have to hide. So
Yeah.
the whole ickiness thing is when you feel like you have to hide something. If you feel
Mm.
you have to hide something, it probably means that you just need to go out and tell them straight up. Like, hey, this is what I think. I think I can really help you. And if you're interested, let's hop on a call. If you're not interested, you just tell me, then we can end it there. But if you ever have that icky feeling
Yeah.
of like, oh man, this could be a like this could be a friend or something, you should address it right away. And this is not sales advice, right? This is
Yeah.
purely like emotional blockage, like address.
I know, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I started doing something very interesting in the past couple of weeks because I have been honing my DM selling skills, so to speak, right? So every time I start feeling a pressure in my chest because of ickiness or uncomfortableness, I pause. And that's the best part because DMs are an asynchronous way of communication. I pause, I take a couple of breaths, and I'm like, why am I getting uncomfortable? What am I actually doing to get uncomfortable? And that check in is helping me so much because it's pulling me back to my soul, right? Because it's so hard, it's so easy, sorry, to go too much in your head and just be in your head all the time. So just a couple of breaths every time you feel icky during a conversation, that pulls you back to your heart and everything becomes clear.
Yeah. Also, whenever I do my engagement sessions, so every day I've been like hopping on DMs, setting up calls, I ask myself, how many friends can I make and how many people can I help today? And
Mm,
that puts me in the right mindset instead of how
yeah.
many people am I gonna close? How many potential clients can I find? Like there's nothing wrong with that type of mindset as well. If you're very salesy and you want to go straight after the goals, but for me, I
Yeah.
like to approach it from a perspective of I want to help people, and if people want to sign up for my services because they find that it really helps them, great.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Wow. We should release this as a masterclass, but like just put it out. I don't know what people would do with it, but that would be cool. Um, yeah, I think first of all, thank you so much because the conversation that we had was so detailed in steps. And I don't think we would have had such a kind of conversation if not, like, if we weren't recording it. You know what I mean? Because we would
Hmm.
just sort of keep going over the stuff because we know where we come from and we would not consider the other person. And it's so beautiful to go into such a depth in one topic. It's amazing. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not going to thank you for coming in the podcast, okay? But yeah, yeah, that's it. It's just been amazing, and I'm really happy that we finally did it. And I can't wait for it to get out and for people to hear it and give their feedback on how it helped them. Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody has questions on how to connect with other people or build their community or just grow on X, give shoot me a DM.
Yes.
I'm very
Yes.
open, very nice. Don't worry. I get emails all the time and whatever the heck. Like we enjoy as creators, we enjoy it helping other
Yeah.
people. I think it's the
Yeah.
joy of having a business.
Yeah. 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 It also gives us that validation, no?
Oh yeah,
It validates our ego. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 Thank you so much. We really hope you guys enjoyed it. And we really hope that you took something out of it. And if you have any questions about what we spoke, please feel free to DM Brian. I'll add his X link in the description below. And yeah, he's genuinely a nice guy. So you can DM him. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Yeah, to